And basically the intention of this session is to ensure that you also get this kind of certificate from Confluent. So I did my certification in year 2019, and this certificate is basically like valid for 2 years. So this is one thing that you will note from the certificate. And this certificate is for certified developer. I have also done this certificate for ops also, like administration. So maybe we can have a separate session for administration. But right now, the purpose of this session is focus on the certified developer for Apache Kafka. So any comments? Like I am just starting, I just started with introductions. I can see like a couple of people just joined. So welcome those people who just joined. So I just want to say hello to you. So we just started with like my introduction, and I'm just showing the certificate. So I'm moving on further. So this is my introduction just for those people who joined just now. So this is the background that I'm having right now, and I'm certified Confluent developer as well as Confluent administrator. So this session is about the development. So we will be focusing only in that specific area. Okay, so what we are going to cover today. So these are the things that we want to see. Very first thing is we will discuss about Apache Kafka. It will be very quick introduction to Apache Kafka. It will not be deep dive. So if you want to have some deep dive session on Apache Kafka, we can keep a separate webinar on that. You know, in one webinar, we cannot cover Apache Kafka in so much detail. Honestly speaking, I teach Apache Kafka and I'm an official instructor for Confluent. So when I teach Apache Kafka, I see like it requires at least 15 days to actually learn about this technology thoroughly. Like this is like a formal training because there are so many areas in Apache Kafka. One area is development, another area is operations, another area is case streams, real-time analytics. Another area is basically optimization. Another area is troubleshooting, monitoring, and multiple production issues related discussions. So if you combine all this technology, it's not like 1 hour job. So here the intention is to focus on the certification for Kafka, but I will give you very high level overview about Kafka, like what it is and why we want to clear the certification. So in case you are not speaking, please be on mute. And this session, okay, so right now I am just on about Apache Kafka. The next part we will be discussing why Kafka is in demand. And then we will be moving on to Confluent Kafka, like how Confluent Kafka is different from the Apache Kafka and what are the differences. We will be looking into that. Apart from that, we will also be looking into why clearing this certification makes sense. Yeah. And then we will be discussing the basic certification information, like what kind of things you can expect in the certification and what is the structure of the certification. We will look into that. And after that, we will see the topics that we want to focus for this particular certification. And then we will have some discussion on the Confluent learning paths, so which all trainings Confluent offers. And then we will be looking into some practice tests that we have. So Q&A, I have mentioned towards the end, but I would highly encourage, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So, you know, like I did not specify end time of this webinar deliberately because I know there will be questions and I want to address those questions. So that's why we did not limit the time to 1 hour. So it is open right now. So if you have anything, you can just discuss on the session. Basically, that's why I just wanted to keep this interactive, and we did not even specify the end time when this webinar will finish. So before I move on, I just want to get a quick feedback. Are we okay with this, or can I go ahead? You can choose an option in Zoom. There is a Zoom status. If you are okay, then you can just say yes. And if you have any question, you can raise your hand in the Zoom status itself. Then you can unmute yourself and ask questions. So by this way, I will also get the feedback that are you participating with me or not through Zoom status. If you can just change the Zoom status. Yeah, I see 4 people have said yes. We can move on. Okay. Adit, are you with me? And Nisal, Parag, are you with me? Can I move on? Srikant? Okay. Vamsi? Okay. So those people who are not, okay, great. So if you are not able to find this Zoom status, you can write in the chat. Okay, I got it. So now let's move on. So here we are moving towards Kafka. So the very first question comes, like, what is Apache Kafka? So, like there is a formal definition, but I don't want to go into that. First of all, I want to get from the audience, like, what is your understanding of Apache Kafka? And when you are explaining anything, feel free to share your thoughts rather than like sharing some internet definition of Apache Kafka. And I will be more than happy to add further more details from my side wherever I think would add value to this session. So can someone share like what is Apache Kafka?
It's near real-time messaging system.
Okay.
I'm Khushi.
Okay, Khushi. It's good that your audio is fine now. Apache Kafka is basically not just a real-time messaging system, but it is much more powerful than a simple like real-time messaging system. So Khushi, like like when Apache Kafka started in LinkedIn, so it was started as a pub sub.
Correct.
Yeah, later on, I think there is echo. If you can just mute yourself in case you are not speaking, then yeah. So after that, what happened? Basically, Kafka introduced a lot of functionalities. In 2015, Kafka started with Kafka Connect API, which is for connecting external systems to Kafka. So that is basically you can integrate your external systems. For example, you can have RDBMS, relational databases, or you can have SAP, or you can have so many other systems. You can connect those systems without writing single line of code. So basically, Kafka started providing Kafka Connect API, and Kafka Connect API was introduced in 2015. 2016, Kafka introduced K-streams, and K-streams is basically for real-time processing of messages. That means you can achieve even millisecond latency. Yeah. And after that, 2017, Kafka introduced KSQL, which is for analyzing data real time through SQL query language, right? So streaming queries are possible. Apart from that, 2017, Kafka also introduced exactly one semantic, which is another interesting feature. So do you know like when Kafka 1.0 was released? 1.0, version 1.0 Kafka. It was released around 2018. So you can see it took 8 years to get 1.0 version, baseline version. So basically everyone was working with Kafka, but they were not even having baseline version of Kafka. We were having less than 1.0 version. And so many organizations were adopting Kafka, but there will be pushback from the business. Like people will say that why we are using a technology which is not even baselined. But Kafka, when it was released as a pub sub in LinkedIn, but actual Kafka, the complete project, you can say 1.0 version was in 2018, because in between there were so many functionalities added beyond messaging system, beyond pub sub, and these functionalities were basically well thought. The vision of the co-architects of Kafka was very clear. There were 3 co-architects of Kafka, or co-founders of Kafka, like senior architects I'm referring. So one was today also they are working, like Jay Krebs, and another person is Neha Khanarkere, and third person is John Rao. So these 3 people, they were having very clear vision that this product is not a pub sub. This product is much bigger than so this product is much bigger than data ingestion. This product is an event streaming platform. So what is event streaming platform? So Kafka is an event. Anyone wants to comment on that? Any questions? Like the things that I just explained, Kafka is not just a pub sub. Kafka has evolved a lot in last so many years, right? And it has added a lot of functionality. And in 2018, around that time, we got Kafka 1.0 version because the vision of the product was not complete. So the product was complete around that time. Then only we said like, yes, we got the baseline version of Kafka. So any comments or questions before I move on? Okay, so if there are no comments, so my question is, what is an event streaming platform? No answer
So
is wrong. Yeah, please.
Events are anything like on database, if there's an insert, update, or delete, or anything that is happening, that is everything is an event.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
and any messages that comes in goes out. So this is also an event.
Okay. So what is event streaming platform?
So event is something like, it is we are just taking money out of the ATM, that
Very
is also
nice.
an event.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. So so Apache Kafka is an event streaming platform. That means it can store events, it can read events, it can replay events, it can recreate objects from events, like it can create the state of the objects from the events, right? So this particular technology is basically having all the functionalities which are required for implementing event streaming platform. So events are basically in microservices based architecture. You will find, let's say I have order service, I have product service, I have customer service. So whatever things are happening in like microservices world, everything is being communicated via events, let's say. So these events can be stored in Kafka, can be recreated, like you can create an object state from events. So you are storing each and everything. Let's say customer, I am a bank customer, so I'm creating an account with a bank. So that is an event. I'm doing fund transfer, that is another event. I'm liquidating money, so that is another event. I am basically doing some like I'm closing my account, that is another event. So these are all events which are stored in Kafka in an ordered manner. So when they are stored in Kafka in an ordered manner, you can replay these events. You can recreate the state with events. So a lot of things are possible when it comes to event streaming platform. So hope you got some idea what is an event streaming platform. So Kafka allows you to persist events, replay events, read events, and recreate states, the object states from those events. So this functionality was completed in 2018. Initially, it started as a pub sub, but in between there were so many things added in Kafka, which basically created as a complete event streaming platform. So it evolved as a complete event streaming platform. Now, like Kafka is a central nervous system of enterprise architectures. These days, you will find LinkedIn, when it started facing problems, the problem was the architecture of LinkedIn was very messy. So architecture of LinkedIn was very messy. So that's why Kafka was created, and Kafka basically simplified LinkedIn architecture. So it's a central nervous system for enterprise architectures. More than 40% of Fortune 500 companies are using Kafka, and this should be like basically like a very important reason to appear for Kafka certification. Yeah. So apart from that, if you go to like any job site, you will find like Kafka is one of the top skills as per lot of job market surveys. And this is like one of the most coveted skills that companies want. So you can easily find the details about the various surveys. If you want, I can send you those links also after this session. But the idea behind this this particular session is to understand like why Kafka and like why we are even thinking about this certification. So hope it makes sense. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share, because still we have like less number of participants. We have only less than 20 participants. So that means we can even interact and we can discuss. So no worries. So if you want to comment, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions.
Hey, Bhavuk, Parag here. So I think this is not the only skill sets we should have, right? We should have, I think it is like a skill set which we can have with along with the big data or along with the Scala development or something like that, correct?
Very good, very good. So Parag, this is a very good question that you have raised. So very first thing is, it depends on what you are basically doing. Let's say your role is an architect, then you have to know a lot of technologies, not just Kafka, right? So Kafka is not the solution for everything. So Kafka is not for like, like in Hive, I'm taking one example of Hive because you mentioned about big data. So Hive is a technology which has a lot of functionalities related to like ad hoc querying, or you can say you can create indexes in Hive, you can do BI tool analytics through Hive, but those things you will not find in Kafka. Kafka, you will not find the machine learning aspect, right? So if you talk about Spark, then Spark has Spark machine learning, but Kafka does not have Spark like machine learning, right? So you are very right, Parag, that this is not the only technology. This is not the solution to every problem in the enterprise architecture, but it is one of the key technologies in the enterprise architectures. Does it help, like Parag, or?
So how it differs by Flink or the Spark streaming? Because I think Kafka is mainly used for the streaming purpose, right?
Yeah. So I am releasing a course on the same. Like actually, I am comparing the various technologies. So soon you will hear about that. I just did the recording also for that particular course, and this is very interesting question, Parag. So I want to address it in two lines. So very first thing is Spark streaming started as a micro batch in the Stream API, right? And Kafka Streams is basically working on events. So it is processing events record by record, right? And Spark Streaming, the framework is internally micro batch, right? So there is a difference between Spark Streaming and Kafka Stream. Kafka Streams is providing exactly one semantic, but Spark Streaming is at least one semantic. So like that in Flink also, you will find Flink has a different role, like complex event processing if you have to do. Then Flink provides a framework for complex event processing, but which is not there in Kafka. So I'm answering this in two lines right now, but there are many other details around this particular discussion. Parag, does it help?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, it helps.
Okay. So if you need more details, we can discuss offline. But for the time being, I'm just sharing with you that Flink has its own advantages, Spark has its own advantages and disadvantages. And similarly, Kafka has its own advantages and disadvantages. And ideally, we should not compare apple and orange, because Kafka is not a processing framework. Kafka is having one component, which is Kafka Streams, which is processing. But actually, Kafka is having much wider role. Kafka can be for ingestion, Kafka can be for storage, Kafka can be for processing and many other areas, not just for processing. And Spark is primarily like it's a unified processing framework, right? Similarly, Flink. Yeah, so that is a major difference between Kafka and Spark. Yeah. So now let's see some stats, some graphs. This is Google Trends, and yesterday only I took this picture. And if you go to Google Trends, you will find like last 5 years. This is what is happening in the technology. Hadoop demand is going down and Kafka is rising. So this is like very common these days, but I'm not saying it is replacing Hadoop. So don't take me that way. So I'm sharing with you, like people are looking for real-time analytics rather than batch. So that's why people are moving towards Kafka. So that is the takeaway from this discussion, rather than, I'm not saying Kafka is replacing Hadoop. So that is wrong, but specific components of Kafka are replacing. Let's say Hadoop MapReduce is batch, so Kafka Streams is real time. So that is something we can compare. But in general, Kafka has many components, Hadoop has many components. We have to compare apple and apple rather than apple and orange. But in general, if you have to understand from high level perspective, this is how the Google trend indicates. I will take up some questions from the chat also. So there is a question: events, transactions, any particular alerts, a particular movement capture. Yeah, so Srikanth, I missed that when you commented. Now I'm looking at your comments in the chat. So there is another thing. Nowadays, I heard that Kafka DB is taking over traditional HDFS platform. So, Kafka DB has been released, KSQL DB. So it will take some time to actually overcome the challenges that we have right now. So in future, you will see a lot of interesting things are happening in KSQL DB, and it has introduced the concept of pull queries also, which was not there in basic KSQL. So apart from that, it has also introduced some connectors related stuff, like you can actually connect to KSQL, like connect to any external source directly from KSQL rather than going via Kafka Connect. So there are few interesting things being added into KSQL DB. The vision is like that, but right now I see that project is still evolving because it just released. Yes, Srikanth, like, does it help? Like, it will take time to actually get that. And you please understand this thing, HDFS is like a file system and KSQL DB is basically a database. So database has a different role, which is for random read, random write, but HDFS is a sequential access platform. So these are two different things. Yeah. But when we talk about database, so it is adding a lot of things, but it will take time. Yeah. So I am moving on further. So Confluent Kafka. So when we talk about Confluent Kafka, Confluent is providing distribution of Kafka, and distribution of Kafka, that means like it is giving like a stable version of Kafka, and along with that it is also providing so many additional tools, components along with Kafka. So you can see we have a lot of security plugins, and we have role-based access control. We have control center, which is a UI, user interface, through which you can actually maintain and monitor Kafka clusters. Replicator is a tool for basically cross data center migration, or you can say replication, like active replication you can set up, like you have disaster recovery cluster and you have active production cluster, you want to replicate data. Auto data balancer is to just ensure that the data is uniformly spread across multiple machines in Kafka cluster. And then we have operator, which is for Kubernetes, which is for Kubernetes. This is a new component added in Confluent 5.3 version for running Kafka on Kubernetes. And then next component is connectors, and connectors are basically like for connecting with external systems without writing even single line of code. So that is the beauty of using connectors in Apache Kafka, because if you use connectors, then you can actually do a lot of things, like you can connect with various external systems in your organization, and you can avoid development over like the cycle. You can avoid that cycle completely. Apart from that, it also provides a lot of clients. Clients are like Maven clients and REST proxy. If you are having non-Java clients, they can also connect to Kafka. And there is MQTT proxy. This is MQTT proxy is basically like for sensor-based data. If you want to integrate Kafka platform with that, so you can have MQTT broker. Through that you can receive data in Kafka. Schema registry is very interesting component because it allows you to manage schema in Kafka, and it is like enabling you to store only relevant information in a Kafka topic. If you are storing anything wrong or anything bad, then it will complain in the very beginning, and you will not be allowed to store anything like bad data, or you can say garbage, you cannot store in Kafka. So schema registry is preventing that. And then KSQL is for basically real-time analytics, streaming data. So you can actually use SQL query language to perform real-time analytics. And then this is Kafka core, like Kafka core has certain components like Kafka streams is there, that is again for real-time analytics. And then we have commit log, that is a definition of Kafka. And then we have Kafka Connect. So any questions or comments on this architecture? Are we clear, like what is the Confluent platform before I move to the Confluent certification? You can ping on the chat in case you don't want to unmute. I can understand it's evening time or late evening time. There may be noise in the background, but in case you want to ask something, feel free to put in the chat. I will be answering question on the chat also.
So Bhavuk, this is Pranay. So yeah. Confluent is something like what Cloudera is for Hadoop platform?
Very nice. Yes. And Databricks provides Spark distribution. Similarly, Confluent provides Kafka distribution. Cloudera provides distribution of Hadoop, but Cloudera also provides Kafka distribution. But Cloudera Kafka distribution is not so evolved or so mature. Confluent Kafka distribution is the best one as such because it has so many tools related to Kafka specifically. Does it help?
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other question about this? Are we good? Can I move on? So Confluent also providing Kafka as a service. If you see Confluent Cloud is there. So using Confluent Cloud, you can actually run Kafka, like you don't have to install Kafka. So you can make use of Kafka on the cloud platform. Behind the scene, it will make use of AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Bauk,
yeah.
Bauk, so I have one question, like a lemon question. You can consider like how a normal Apache Kafka versus like in a Confluent Kafka, which is what exactly is the difference, and how the organizations are getting benefited with this Confluent Kafka just because of the Red Hat Linux and the Linux, or what exactly is the extra benefits we are getting with that, but with respect to the cost and as well as like how clients are thinking about this product.
Yeah. So cost, you can check with the sales team of Confluent. So I will not be commenting about the cost, but I will be specifically discussing about the technical differences. Hope that should basically be okay, because I'm not the right person to talk about the cost specifically. Yeah. So, you know, like Apache Kafka is open source version, right? And Confluent has a lot of open source committers on their payroll, right? So you will find even Cloudera is having a lot of Hadoop open source committers. Like that is basically like a Confluent having this is one thing. Second thing is Confluent is providing enterprise distribution of Kafka. That means Confluent is doing all the load testing, penetration testing, integration testing, like security testing, that is penetration testing, all done by Confluent. It is giving you stable version of Kafka. That is fine, but you know, Confluent is also giving you support. Confluent is giving you lot of certified connectors, right? So those connectors are not available in open source version. So you have to pay for those connectors, because Confluent also has to pay salaries to these open source committers, right? And if they have to pay the salaries and they have to basically run a company, it's a company like it's like Kafka. Initially when Kafka started, I was teaching Kafka for 1 hour. Now I'm saying Kafka is more than 15 hours, right? So 15 days, sorry, 15 days. So that means multiplied by 8. So that is also not sufficient to cover everything in Kafka. But I am referring this thing like when I say Confluent Kafka is having Kafka plus lot of additional tools, because working with Kafka is not easy. It looks like a very simple system. You are sending the message and you are receiving the message. Producers are producing a message and consumers are consuming the message. But actually it is not just so simple system, because there are so many moving parts. So Confluent is giving you a lot of additional tools. Can you see there are additional tools mentioned here? Control center, replicator. So these control center is a UI, like through which you can maintain the Kafka cluster, you can monitor Kafka cluster. Replicator is for disaster recovery, because when you are running Kafka, then you have to think about zero data loss. How you will achieve that? So when production goes down and data, like your disaster recovery cluster will come up, then basically how will you transition is smooth and your replication is happening related to data as well as metadata. So this replicator is doing that. Auto data balancer tool from Confluent. These are all Confluent tools. Can you see where is Apache Kafka in this architecture and what are additional things provided by Confluent? So that's the value add Confluent is having. And if you are just working with Kafka, yeah, so then you will have a lot of issues because you cannot manage schema just with Kafka. You have to use schema registry. So that's short answer. We can discuss this in more detail later. Yeah. So there is another question. What is MQTT proxy? No problem. So MQTT proxy is basically like for sensor-based data. So this is a protocol, and let's say you have sensors. You know, this Kafka is there in Audi car, right? So in Audi car like Volkswagen, they are using Kafka, right, cluster, and that is like one of the clients. If you go to confluent.io, earlier a Volkswagen case study was shown on the homepage of Confluent, because that is a very basic, like very important use case, I should say, or very important customer. Hello. Right? So yeah, so the sensors which are installed in the car basically sending data. So I have muted Praveen's. Yeah. So so now MQTT proxy is basically a protocol. Yeah. Yeah. So MQTT is a proxy. Like MQTT proxy is like another channel through which you can receive sensor-based data. Yeah. Yeah. So we can take the questions in the chat. It's a very nice session suggestion, Srikant. So are we clear, Parag? Like what is MQTT proxy? It is for sensor-based data, and the data goes into Kafka via this another protocol, MQTT. So hope this makes sense. Okay. So this is for sensor-based data ingesting data from sensors, like sensors are there in the car, or it can be there in washing machine, or it can be there anywhere. These days sensor cost is very low, so that's why Kafka is becoming popular these days. Another reason. Now, why this certificate? Like, why we are discussing about this certificate? Why we should do this certificate? So, you know, like this certificate is a renowned certification in industry, and this is like a Kafka certification. More than 40% of Fortune 500 companies are using Kafka. That was one reason, and second thing is like it is highly in demand. So that's what we were discussing since beginning, and I was also mentioning about Confluent Kafka. So Confluent is providing the best distribution of Kafka and compared to any other, because Confluent is a company formed by co-creators of Kafka. So that's why this certification is having like the weightage. Another thing, like it is basically bringing any certification from a vendor brings authenticity to your profile. So that's another reason. And third thing is you can join the group of certified developers on LinkedIn. So once you are certified, you will get the certificate. I've shown my certificate in the very beginning of this session. And similarly, you can also get the certificate. You will get like LinkedIn credential, like you will get a credentials, certification credentials, and you can add those credentials in the LinkedIn profile. Even you can print the certificate, you are allowed to print on the visiting card. So these things are, these benefits are there. Apart from that, during the certification journey, there will be a lot of fun and learning. So when I say learning and fun, you understand one simple thing. If there is a target, then there is like run rate is higher. So when you target that I have to score this much, then you will basically run faster and you will basically have a better run rate. If your target is low, then your run rate will be less. If you do that, then definitely during this process, there will be a lot of learning and there will be a lot of fun. And you know, like those people who are working on Kafka projects, I have seen a lot of people, a lot of consultants, they are working on Kafka projects, but they don't understand the basics, or they don't understand the internals of Kafka. So if you are preparing for this certification, then definitely you will be learning a lot of interesting moving parts of Kafka. You will be learning a lot of internal details of Kafka. So that's why I am recommending, if you go for this certification, then definitely there will be a lot of learning and a lot of fun. So any questions or comments before I move on? Are we good? So if you are good, you can change the LinkedIn status and I will just move on to the important parts. In the LinkedIn, okay. Any insights on Kafka versus TIBCO? Oh. So we will compare these technologies. I have, as I mentioned, Pranay, in the very beginning, that I have compared a lot of technologies in a separate course. So that is like you will find Kafka is a distributed commit log, and you will find other messaging systems. They don't. So on a very high level, I will just give you 2-line answer. Kafka is an event streaming platform. Very first thing, which is not there in TIBCO. And second thing is Kafka provides a lot of interesting features like millisecond processing for big, like high velocity data. And third thing, Kafka is having like exactly one semantic. So Kafka is giving you guarantee that message will be processed once and only once. Yeah. So these are some of the things that I'm sharing on a very high level, but actually it is a very detailed discussion, because you will find in Kafka we don't have the acknowledgement based approach. It is basically long-term storage of data. So it is buffering data for long-term. You can say it is buffering data for 7 years, 10 years. You can store data for long-term. You can configure that. So there are many other details, Pranay. We can discuss this offline, but I'm just giving you some hints, some ideas, so that you are having some takeaway from this session, like how it is different from TIBCO or RabbitMQ or any other system. Yeah. But anyhow, I will be so if you are not very clear with anything, feel free to ping on the LinkedIn, because right now the focus is more towards certificate, like certification discussion, like what should we do for the preparation. So that's why I'm just moving here. But anyhow, I gave you sufficient number of next steps or the hints where like I want to point you, like with regards to Kafka versus TIBCO. Okay, so this exam is basically remotely proctored. And when we say remotely proctored, you can take this exam anywhere. Like you should have internet connectivity and a room without any disturbance, and you should have a webcam, and you should have internet connectivity. So basic things are required, and you will be monitored from remote, right? And basically you have to appear for the exam, like they will ask you to close all the windows and everything. Basic things will be taken care. You will not have access to any documentation, you will not have access to any reference material. So just the exam paper, and you have to basically participate there, and you need to answer questions then and there itself. Like so it is 90 minutes exam, and there will be 60 questions. The exam will have multiple choice questions, and there can be multiple choices which can be correct, right? And result is either pass or fail. So now so any questions or comments like about the basic certificate, the certification information, like how it will be? I'll wait for your questions. Are we good? Okay, so you can change your status. Okay, Parag, I got it. So I'm moving on. So when I say the exam is having 60 questions, so 40% of the questions will be from application design, 30% of the questions will be from development side, and 30% of the question will be from deployment, testing, and monitoring. Now, if you want to know like what is the meaning of application design, if you go to Confluent website, you will find the areas which are covered under application design. But anyhow, in this session, I will be talking about those areas in the next slide, like which all topics we have to study. And then development perspective, you can understand, like if you're coming from development background, you must have worked with different types of APIs. So it is expected that you should basically know producer API, consumer API, case streams API. Yeah, so objective type. This is an objective type questions, and there will be questions related to like coding, but that code you don't have to execute. So this will be code snippets that will be shown in the question, and then you have to basically read that, and you have to answer then and there itself. So it's not like you have to do some coding here. In Cloudera certification, I have done a lot of Cloudera certifications, like those are all hands-on certifications. But this particular certificate is not basically asking you to do some coding. It's MCQ based. Any other question apart from this? Yeah, so there will be question related to code, but that will be code snippets that will be shown. You don't have to write code as such. Yeah. Okay, so what to study for the exam? I have captured important points here. Like I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the terms that are written. In case you are not very much familiar with any of these topics, then feel free to maybe on the chat, or you can unmute yourself. So the very first thing is you should be familiar with Kafka architecture. Kafka, when I say Kafka architecture, there are many moving parts in Kafka architecture. And I would highly suggest, like highly recommend that you should download Kafka reference architecture from Confluent website. So if you Google Confluent Kafka reference architecture, you can download. In Confluent Kafka reference architecture, you will get to know a lot of interesting details about Confluent Kafka. So there will be a lot of details related to administration of the Kafka rather than development. But still, I would say that that should be like a reference guide, or it should be like a Bible. So if you just download the Confluent Kafka reference architecture from the Confluent website, because you will get to know how Confluent Kafka architecture looks like, what are the recommendations from Confluent with regards to the setup of Kafka. So it will talk about, like in small cluster, how we should deploy Zookeeper and how we should deploy Kafka brokers. And large cluster, how should we deploy Zookeeper, Kafka brokers, and what should be the configuration of each machine. If you're running Kafka on AWS, then what kind of instances we should use on AWS. So similarly, you will find many other details, like what kind of hard disk we should have, what kind of network card we should have. But all these details are related to administration, not related to development. But still, I would highly recommend you download that architecture, because you will find a lot of interesting stuff. Now, this Confluent architecture, this Kafka architecture is basically like having many things, and you should know like how different daemons are interacting with each other, different processes are interacting with each other, like what are the roles and responsibilities of these daemons, these long running daemons, how they communicate with each other, what will happen if something goes down, then what kind of exceptions you can expect in your code. So those things you should be very much clear. Apart from that, you should be familiar with schema registry, schema management in Kafka. So schema management, you know, Kafka is for lot of things, but it started as a pub sub. You can send data, you can receive data. You are basically publishing and receiving data, consuming data. So when you are talking about data, so we must not ignore the metadata, or let's say schema part, specifically schema part. We should not ignore that. So how to ensure that the data that you are sending is basically compliant to the schema. So it should not happen that today you have sent 1 million messages of customers to a topic, and tomorrow you are sending 1 million messages of orders to that same topic, because there is lot of checks, like there are a lot of checks done by schema registry or component of Kafka. So it will basically prevent you from doing wrong things in Kafka. Otherwise, if you post different types of messages in the same topic, then consumers will start throwing exception. They were expecting the data will be for customers, but we started posting orders related data in the same topic, then consumers will start failing. So schema management is very important. Next part is you should know data modeling in Kafka. In case you are coming from relational database world, then you must have done some data modeling to create topic. Yeah, so you have to think about how to basically create partitions, like how many partitions I should create, when to create a new topic, right, in Kafka. So you have to consider, like, when should I consider compression of this topic, when should I go for like other interesting details, like how should I ensure that the throughput requirements are met with regards to the non-functional requirements that your client might be sharing. So you must be familiar with data model of Kafka. So this may seem odd to people, like Kafka we are not using as a database. There are a lot of discussions around this particular thing, like Kafka as a database. So it is like many companies, you will find 95% of the companies, they are not using Kafka as a database. So even then data modeling is required. It's a must thing. Whenever you set up a Kafka cluster, data modeling is a must thing. So when I say data modeling, I am referring to the design of topics, partitions, and then lot of other details. Like data modeling itself will take at least 1 hour when we start discussing in detail. But I'll be clear, you should be familiar with data modeling aspect of Kafka. Yeah. Any questions or comments before I move on to the next part? No problem. Okay, got it. No questions. Okay. So next part is internals of Kafka core. So internals of Kafka core, that means like you should know different components. Like for example, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Kafka component which is called controller. Anyone familiar with controller component in Kafka? You can unmute yourself, or you can. Okay. Okay. So I am just sharing with you, like you should know the internals of Kafka. When I am saying internals of Kafka, if you see, like commonly people will say Kafka is for publishing messages and receiving messages, and there are brokers and zookeeper. So my personal view on this is Kafka is a very detailed technology, and this detailed technology has a lot of interesting moving parts, and you should know specific areas, like controller is one component that I am referring. Similarly, you will find like how the overall process is working when producer is publishing messages to Kafka. It's not so straightforward. In the API, you can simply write producer.send, and then producer record is going and it is getting published to Kafka. But it is not so simple, because under the hood, it is making multiple calls to get the metadata from Kafka cluster. And where is the metadata stored in Kafka cluster? Anyone wants to comment on that? Where is metadata stored in Kafka cluster? Zookeeper, okay. And you know, Khushi, like Zookeeper is storing metadata, and this metadata is synchronized with all the brokers. So all the daemons of Kafka will have the same metadata that Zookeeper is having, because there is a metadata sync call which is basically happening between Zookeeper and brokers. This is a caching of metadata on all brokers, on all the Kafka machines, right? So what happens basically when you are sending a message to Kafka cluster, producer is sending a message. So when I'm saying you are sending, that means producer is sending a message to Kafka cluster. Then first of all, producer will go to Kafka broker. It will get the metadata. The metadata is related to the leader partition. And then second time, the Kafka, this particular thing will be published. So what is the information available in Zookeeper versus Kafka DB? Okay, so Kafka DB is a different beast altogether. And first of all, what is the information stored in Zookeeper? Zookeeper stores, very first thing is access control list of Kafka. Zookeeper stores quota related to producers and consumers of Kafka. Zookeeper stores partition related details, topic related details of Kafka. Zookeeper stores, you can say it stores it stores brokers, which all brokers are alive in Kafka cluster. Zookeeper will store that. So Zookeeper is storing all this information, like it is tracking the controller node, it is tracking all the brokers. If any broker going down, then Zookeeper will have this information, right? So are we clear? So what is the role of Zookeeper in Kafka, Srikanth? Yeah. Now Kafka DB is basically a new addition to this entire ecosystem, Kafka ecosystem. And Kafka DB is basically created to solve two problems with Kafka SQL. So very first problem that it solves is very first thing, like before I go to Kafka DB, I need to explain you KSQL. So KSQL is for real-time analytics using SQL on Kafka. So you can achieve millisecond latency. Let's say we are getting Twitter data. When we are receiving Twitter data, you are processing Twitter data, you are basically able to get insights. You are able to get this thing like how many, let's say, COVID-19 patients are there in a particular area based on tweets. Let's say people are tweeting about anyone found positive, you are basically, the person is tweeting about that, let's say. So we are able to get the actionable insights in like real time. So that's the role of KSQL, right? So you can fire queries in real time, you can get results, you can perform aggregations in real time. Like SQL is very good for analysis. You can do real-time analytics through that query, and you can actually get to know how many patients are there in a particular region for, let's say, COVID-19. Yeah. So yeah. So this is. So I will come to your next question, Srikanth. So KSQL is a streaming query, right? So you can fire the query. You can basically, it's like always on, 24/7. KSQL is always running, right? So it is streaming the result. It's showing the result. KSQL DB is giving you another additional option, which is called pull queries. So, you know, there is a push query. Push query is Twitter, new tweets are coming, the information is getting pushed. You are always getting the latest results of Corona, right? But when we talk, I'm muting one person because there is a background noise. So when we talk about push queries, so KSQL was giving us push queries, but KSQL DB is also giving us pull queries. Pull query is point in time queries. So so you can actually fire queries like we fire in other databases also, like you can get the point in time information. So that is the role of KSQL DB, one role. Another role is related to connectors, but hope you got some idea the difference between Zookeeper and Kafka DB. So these are two different things. Zookeeper is a core component of Kafka, which stores a lot of metadata of Kafka, and it tracks broker nodes, like which broker is going down, which broker is up. So it is getting heartbeat from different brokers. So that's the role of Zookeeper. Kafka DB has a different role that I just explained. Now there is another question which is called BigQuery in GCP. So I do teach BigQuery also because I'm an official instructor for Google. So BigQuery is basically a product of Google, and you can say it provides you streaming queries also. But BigQuery has a lot of interesting things because BigQuery is based on Google Dremel white paper, and it is a columnar storage. So it has other details. It's not like 100% similar to Kafka DB, but you can simply say that in BigQuery you can store big data. Kafka DB also you are basically, but Kafka DB is not storing data. Data is stored in Kafka DB, right? So Kafka DB is basically for firing queries on top of Kafka. So data is stored in Kafka, in like when we are talking about Kafka DB. But BigQuery can have federated sources also. That's a major difference. Like there are many differences, but right now I'm explaining like federated queries means like BigQuery can have external sources. Using BigQuery, you can fire query on Google Drive also. Let's say your data is in Google Drive, you can fire query on Google Drive, you can retrieve the results without storing data on Kafka. But in Kafka DB, you must have data on Kafka, otherwise it will not work. This is a major difference. BigQuery is serverless. Serverless is like you pay for what you use, but Kafka DB is not serverless, right? So that's another major difference between BigQuery and Kafka DB. There are many other differences. If you give me half an hour more, I can talk in more detail, but right now the point is not to distinguish between BigQuery and Kafka DB, but the point is to discuss about the certification objectives. So so I hope this is clear. Like when I say internals of Kafka, you should know. So you should know about the daemons of Kafka. You should know the roles and responsibilities. You should know like which all threads are running on the Kafka machines, right? So what are these threads responsible for? What is the special responsibility given to different brokers apart from the role that they are normally playing, right? So I mentioned about controller example, but beyond that also there is group coordinator, and then there is another interesting area like so there are a lot of interesting and moving parts in Kafka. So I'm just referring to those things here. When I say internals of Kafka, you should know. Okay, so there is another question. Can we auto scale brokers dynamic manner in Kafka? So Srikant, like Kafka, there is a Confluent cloud for that. It's not there in the on-prem distribution, right? So you need to see the Confluent cloud, because Confluent cloud is recently, like you can say, maybe it hardly been less than, it's almost like 1 year or so. So this auto scaling, I was looking into auto scaling for Confluent cloud. At that time it was missing, but you need to see the latest documentation for Confluent cloud. If you see Confluent Kafka does not give you auto scaling brokers, because Confluent Kafka is basically administered by you on your data center or on your hardware. But if you talk about cloud, there is another product, Confluent Cloud. In that you have to see the latest documentation. Yeah. So auto scaling is hope this helps. Like this is not there in Confluent Kafka, just Confluent Kafka, but you should see Confluent Cloud. So apart from that, we have a consumer group protocol. So consumer group protocol is a very detailed protocol. So you must know like how it works, basically how consumers are pulling data from Kafka, and how basically things are working when it comes to like when consumer goes down and if there is any issue with the broker. So this protocol you should be very much comfortable, very much familiar before you appear for the certification. Any other question? So I'm looking for questions on the chat, so feel free to ping on the chat in case you don't want to unmute yourself. Venu, you want to ask something? I want to keep this webinar interactive so that if there are any things, I can just assist you. Is there a limitation on Zookeeper? Yeah, so you know, any alternatives? Polam, there is a KIP. KIP means Kafka Improvement Plan. Kafka Improvement Plan, and the KIP number is very interesting, which is 500. So there is a KIP, Kafka Improvement Plan 500. So right now, community is working on removing the dependency on Zookeeper, and soon you will hear this thing like this particular thing will be completely gone. So the community wants to remove the dependency on Zookeeper, right? And soon you will see that this is basically like happening here. Yeah. So I see there is a participant who has joined without name, so I'm not sure who has joined. So if you can just maybe rename yourself, otherwise I will be removing, because you know there are issues with the Zoom security. So I don't want to take any risk if anyone joining without name. Yeah. So please name yourself. Yeah. Okay. So I see everyone. Maybe you can also name yourself, so then it will be easier for me to know who is basically writing on the chat. Yeah. Okay. So there is a question: how a PII information will be handled in Kafka? Will there be additional security mechanisms? Yeah. So Srikant, like for PII, we have masking. Like we do masking of data through different ways. Even through Kafka Connect also you can do that. Single message transform functionality is there. You can do that, or you can use NiFi with Kafka. So there are many ways to implement this particular thing. Like, and, yeah. Is there any question, John? John, you want to...
Sorry about the background.
No problem. No problem. I'll mute you. Okay. So there is another question. Integration with Kerberos. Okay. So before I go to that question, there is another question. I found the console of Confluent is not that stable. So when you are saying, are you referring to Confluent Control Center? Okay, so I will take up the next question in the meantime. So how about integration with Kerberos? Yes, so that is for authentication. So you can integrate Kafka cluster with Kerberos for authentication. And PII is specific, like specialized area for masking the PII data, or maybe you want to achieve some functionalities related to like maybe some TTL you want to set, like there are other interesting details like encryption of data also you want to do. So those things can be done in Confluent Cloud, because in Confluent Cloud we have this functionality of Kafka at rest encryption. But that is all related to security. So I was here. So any questions till now? Like I covered till knowledge of producer consumer topic level properties. So are we good with this? Like we need to know the properties configurations, like what are the producer level configurations, what are the consumer level configurations, what are the topic level configurations. You need to know that. And then we have partitioner concept. And this partitioner concept is basically like how the data is distributed across multiple partitions on the Kafka cluster from producer. So by default, there is hash partitioner, but you should also know about the custom partitioner and many other things. Yeah. So yeah, Parag, so initially Confluent Control Center was having a lot of issues, but nowadays, like the recent versions, if you use, you will find that is much more stable than the previous versions. So in a multi-tenant environment, do we have a kind of queue, job, priorities? Very nice. So Srikanth, this is in Kafka, you can actually create this kind of thing. When I was referring to data modeling in Kafka, I was referring to these things like queue, like a priority. So which let's say in Kafka, I am storing two types of messages. One type of message is OTP. Another type of message I am storing is marketing emails. So OTPs are high priority messages and marketing emails are not high priority messages. Yeah, so this is the common use case that we implemented in one of our projects on Kafka. So you can set up, you can do data modeling in Kafka in such a way so that you can implement such kind of functionalities easily. Yeah, Srikanth, does it help? If new, which one to go for, Confluent Cloud or on-prem? So Polam, it depends on the, or like on the, let's say you have, let's say one thing is, let's say you have a team of administrators, or you know that you have people who are good at setting up Kafka, and you have the machines, you have the hardware, so then you may go for the Kafka on-prem. But let's say you don't have any skill set related to Kafka administration, so you will say that I just want to use Kafka, I don't want to set up this Kafka cluster, because getting the best performance out of Kafka cluster is not so easy. You have to optimize so many properties. So then based on that, you can take this decision. But there are many other factors like cost and other things that you can consider. Polam, so does it help? Like primarily, I would say the time you need, how much time you need to deliver the project. So if you have to deliver the project immediately, then Confluent Cloud can be a good option. But if you have time to set up the cluster, you want more control, you want to store data for a longer period of time. So if you want that kind of thing, then you may go for on-prem. Polam, is it okay? If you can just write down, or if you have any further question, you can ask. Yeah. Okay, so next part is basically partitioning concept we discussed, and trade-offs in Kafka. When we are talking about Kafka trade-offs, actually Kafka has multiple things. When I say multiple things, it is about the trade-offs. Because when you choose a system, you cannot get best of all, best of everything, right? So you cannot get best of everything. So you have to choose a trade-off. Let's say trade-off is durability versus throughput. Similarly, ordering versus batching. Similarly, availability versus consistency. So there are so many trade-offs when we talk about Kafka cluster. So if you know the trade-offs, then it will be good, because based on that, you will be configuring Kafka. If you don't know the trade-offs, then you are misconfiguring Kafka and you will be impacting your production environment a lot. So this is like you should have knowledge about the trade-offs in Kafka. Okay, apart from that, you should also basically know KSQL queries, Avro data format, right? Sorry, I think there is some problem with it. Okay, so I lost my laptop. So if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and ask questions, because I can't, I'm having my issues, some issues with my laptop right now. My laptop is discharged, but anyhow, I'm connected through iPad. You can unmute yourself and ask questions. Avro data format, and then another one is we have Kafka CLI. So you should know the command line interface. You should know about Kafka security. You should know about how to troubleshoot, how to basically troubleshooting. I mean, like it is about let's say you are getting some exceptions from Kafka. Can you please unmute yourself and just confirm that you are able to hear me? Because my laptop just went down, so I just want to ensure that you are able to hear me.
Yes.
Okay. So Kafka, Kafka security, Kafka performance, how to tune Kafka to ensure that you are getting the required performance from Kafka, because there will be SLAs and you have to achieve performance. So how will you do that? Because there are so many properties. There are more than 150 configurations in Kafka, Apache Kafka. So how do we change those configurations and achieve the required level of performance that you are looking for? Troubleshooting, when I say troubleshooting, that means like when you are getting an exception, let's say timeout exception, or you are getting exception related to maybe some clock skew issue, or there can be multiple different types of issues, then how it is going to basically do this thing, like how will you troubleshoot? So in certification exam, you can expect questions related to that. Like you are getting some exception, then what are the possible problems that are causing this exception, and how will you solve it? Like there will be 4 options, choose out of those options. Yeah. Monitoring Kafka. So you need to know some level, because level of monitoring. Monitoring is an aspect which is usually covered in administration exam. But as a developer, you should basically know some metric, some basic metric in Kafka, like let's say leaders are getting re-elected, or maybe you are having issues with regards to in-sync replicas. So you should know something about the monitoring aspect also. Next part is deployment, like how the Kafka cluster is deployed and which component is deployed where. So that's why when I started this discussion, I said like you should download Confluent reference architecture, because reference architecture you will get a lot of details about the deployment of Kafka cluster. Yeah. And then last but not the least, this is very important from a development point of view. So you should know producer API, consumer API, like which all methods are there, which are commonly used, which all parameters are being passed. Let's say something is failing in Kafka, then what kind of exception you can expect in producer, and in the API, like what will be the results, like what kind of objects you will be getting in the API at the producer side, and how can we retrieve the information. If there is a success, then how can we retrieve the information from the object received on the successful delivery of the message. So you need to basically introspect those messages also through producer API. And through consumer API, you should know the poll, and then you should also know other details about the consumer API, like auto, offset, reset, and there are many other properties at the consumer side. So in the consumer API itself, you will see that there are some mandatory properties, there are option properties. So what are the meanings of those properties in the producer API, consumer API? You should know that. So I am not able to see the chat right now. In case you are asking anything in the chat, so you can please ask directly, because this is iPad, and earlier my laptop was up and running, so I was able to see the chat in parallel. So right now, if you are asking anything on the chat, please unmute yourself and ask questions. Chat functionality is not visible on iPad. I need to see where it is, but I don't want to waste time. Instead of that, you can ask questions by unmuting yourself. So I'm assuming there are no questions on the chat. If there are any, maybe someone can assist me, and you can just read if that the person who has asked is not asking on unmute and is not asking through audio, then some other person can assist me. Are we good till now? Like what all things we need to focus for the certification?
Yes.
One more thing, like what are the CI/CD tools will be used in this when we are dealing with the Kafka development?
Okay, so when we talk about specifically speaking, when we talk about Kafka development, then you are talking about K-streams. Let's say K-streams is for Java developers, and even its Scala API is available. So you can integrate K-streams. You know, K-streams API is like a client-side API. So client-side API, you can actually integrate that with Jenkins, or you can have your own Maven build. You can integrate with that, and you can build K-streams application, and then you can run that K-stream application, which will interact with the Kafka cluster. So specifically speaking, it is K-streams, which is like coding based. Other things are not coding based as such. Like yes, we do have producer API, we do have consumer API. Again, producer can be Java application, consumer can be Java application, right? So in that case, again, the Java ecosystem will come into picture. So does it help? Was that Srikanth?
Yeah. Yes. Bauk, yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. No problem. So there is no end time to this webinar. So that's why I just want to ensure that I kept this webinar at 9 p.m. IST so that other commitments are not there, so that we can discuss like anything you like related to certification specifically in this session. Okay, so this is fine. Like we got it, like what we have to study. So I want to hear from the people like who are listening to me, like what are your thoughts? What is like your preparation level right now? When are you planning to appear for the certification? So if you can just share your thoughts, then it will be great. How much prepared are you feeling right now? Maybe Nagapet, you want to share? Naga. Or Srikanth, you want to share something? Or Parag, you want to share? How much prepared are you for this certification?
Yeah, but now we are in a tiny state. I mean, like a tiny steps.
Yeah.
So now only we are expanding our knowledge. So that's what
your voice is breaking actually.
Yeah, I'm like in baby steps. So I need to prepare.
Okay, I got it. Otherwise, like Srikanth, anyone else wants to share like what is the level of preparation right now based on the topics that I mentioned on the slides and the discussion?
So yeah, I have worked, or I have some information on Kafka architecture plus producer consumer APIs and schema registry and stuff. But I'm not fully aware of the security performance or any other things that is already written over here, right? So the internals of Kafka core or data modeling or all the stuff. So maybe I'll have to go through more materials and understand more of it.
Hey, Bhauk, this is Parag here. So about me, like I can mention here that I'm not as prepared yet because.
Hello.
Yeah, Bhauk, you there?
Yeah. Sorry, there was a problem here.
Okay.
So now, are you?
I'm prepared, like because I'm right now, like though I'm working on to the Kafka, but like we are just getting the things, like that we have to create what you can say consumer, or we need to just create a topics or something like that, like by using like Java code. Okay,
yeah,
where we need to just mention the topic name and all other things, like, so that is a template Java code you can have, like, so we cannot say that we are prepared about that. So, though the Kafka Connect is a gray area for me, like, and even, like I tried to, as I shared earlier, like I tried to install it on a GCP, the Confluent Kafka, like, but I'm getting many issues on that because, like, one of the Kafka broker is going down. The first Kafka broker is going down when the another Kafka broker goes up, on the second machine. So these are the issues I'm facing. So we cannot say, that I'm perfect into the Kafka.
Yeah. So so regarding the issues that you're facing, you can ask on the forum. So we have forum.datacouch.io, so there you can ask the question. So we will answer that. But from my perspective, so that I see that lot of participants, like a lot of people. You can mute yourself, like if you're not speaking, so that there is no background noise. So I'm just sharing with you, like I have seen a lot of people. They have this understanding of Kafka, that Kafka is for producing messages and consuming messages, but actually there are so many capabilities of Kafka, like K-streams, KSQL DB. So many things are available, like Kafka Connect is there, as you mentioned. So definitely understanding these things are important before you appear for the certification. Yeah. So actually look into that issue. If you can just post it on the forum, right? forum.datacouch.io, and we can answer those questions there. But apart from that, anyone else wants to share this? Can I move to the next part? Okay, so this is basically the next step, and the next step is about the Confluent learning paths. So in Confluent, you can find various trainings. So one option, like one path is for developers and another path is for administrators. So if you are a developer, then there is like a 3-day, this 1-day training is already available on Confluent website. It's free of cost. You can just attend that training. Apache Kafka Essentials, you can go through that. And then you can follow one of these two paths. Like since right now we are discussing about development aspect, so you can see the path on the right side, on the left side. On the left side, you will see we have Confluent Developer. This is 3 days training, and then we have another training which is Confluent Streams Processing. So we are actually official partner of Confluent. So that's why I'm sharing the training which is provided by Confluent related to Kafka, right? So Kafka Streams. And then Kafka Confluent Developer is for Kafka Producer, Kafka Consumer. And then on the right side, Confluent Operations is related to how to install Kafka, how to monitor Kafka, how to maintain Kafka, how to do capacity planning, how to monitor Kafka. So these things are in Confluent Operations on the right side. And then there is another training which is Confluent Advanced Optimization, which is for production issues and the challenges that people face. So this is about that area. Yeah. So hope it makes sense. Like there are 2 tracks.
Yeah, Javak, this is Srini. Actually, I have one question. As you said, like for the Kafka admin, it is covering these 2 parts: Confluent Advanced Optimization and Confluent Operations.
Yeah, absolutely. Ops track, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you covering these topics also? I mean, not now, later, or?
Yeah, so this is official content, so I cannot cover that as part of webinar, right? So, but I am sharing with you what Confluent provides as a training, right? So this is like something which is like official content, and these things are covered in the Confluent official trainings only. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. So hope you are clear with the Confluent offerings. And then you can see this is a developer training offering, and here you will find the various things like nowadays the developer training has evolved a lot in the sense like it will not be talking about Kafka fundamentals, but it will directly start with the Kafka architecture. And then it will be delving deeper into developing with Kafka, and then schema management, Kafka Connect, Kafka installation administration. This is like a basic thing. So it will basically be like very basic introduction, because this is a development training. So here you will find that more development related topics are covered rather than administration related topics. And here you will also find Kafka Streams, K-Streams API for processing the data in real time in Kafka. Yeah, so this is what Confluent offers. Now, this is a practice test, and this practice test is basically for this certification. So this practice test will give you some idea like what kind of questions will come in the certification. So there are around 170 questions, and there are 3 practice tests. So if you are interested, then you can actually go for this practice test also. There are some practice questions which are provided on Confluent website also. Those are free of cost, but this one is also not very expensive. So if you just scan, you will find like it's around 700 or less than 700 rupees, like maybe 300-400, maybe depends like what Udemy is offering. Like, but this is one practice test. There are 3 practice tests here, so that you can see. Yeah. So there are some sample questions here. So if you want to try it out, maybe you can just see. I'm reading these questions aloud, and then you can answer this question. So the very first question is, while running the following 2 commands on our development Kafka cluster with all default settings, we see extremely strange behavior. So we are running a delete command, and then we are listing. After running second command, we still see that some topic, this topic name is some topic, and we deleted the topic, but topic is not getting deleted. So what can be the potential reason for this problem? Anyone wants to comment, like which can be the right option?
I think it's need a restart.
Okay, any other answer? Okay, so I will share my thoughts on that. So very first thing is, when you delete a topic is gone. Okay, fine. But you know, when a topic is created again, whenever you are sending another message to the topic, automatically topic is created if that property is enabled in the Kafka configuration. Auto create topic, there is a configuration. So if that property is enabled, that means if your producers are sending data, right? So then what will happen, that as soon as producer will publish a message to Kafka topic, which is not existing right now, then that topic will be recreated because that property is enabled. So chances are that that third option is correct, which is basically when you are deleting a topic, you should stop all the producer consumers so that there are no clients which are basically referring to that topic. So whenever you are deleting, then it will be gone. And next time when you start, before you start, you should create that. If you want to create, you can create that or disable that property so that the topic is not recreated again when you publish something to that topic. Yeah. So this is a question from the practice test that we have there on Udemy. Yeah. Are we clear with this? I'm moving on to the next question now. I'm not looking at the chat. So in case you are having any question on the chat, please ask, unmute yourself and ask. My laptop is down, but I'm looking at iPad. iPad does not, I'm not able to find that option related to chat here. So it's like a small screen. So I'm on the next question. The next question is, which of the following best describes Kafka Connect? So can anyone tell me like which one is the right option for this?
First one.
Okay, yeah, first one. You know, Kafka, why not second? I will explain that part and then I will come to the first one. So Kafka Connect is not for basically producing or consuming messages as such. Yeah, so even though Kafka connectors are making use of producer consumer API, but that is not the purpose. So it is not for administration of Kafka cluster. So Kafka Connect is for connecting with external systems, right? So you are basically connecting with other data systems. You are streaming data into Kafka. You are moving data out of Kafka. So that's the purpose of Kafka Connect. It is not for viewing the state of the Kafka cluster. Because do you know Kafka cluster is different and Kafka Connect cluster is different. Kafka Connect cluster is for data integrations. You can actually integrate your external system with Kafka through Kafka Connect. That's why. Yeah. Because second option is more with regards to the state of the Kafka cluster, but it is not for maintenance and monitoring of Kafka cluster. It's a separate cluster which has a different purpose. Okay, so the next question is auto. This is the configuration that I was referring here. So this answer I have already discussed. The answer is first one, auto create topics enable. So if that is there, then automatically topics will be created when you publish the message very first time to the topic or when you access the topic. Next question. What is the difference between Kafka producer class and producer record class?
Is it the fourth one?
Yeah, fourth one. So Kafka producer is a class that handles a producer and handling the messages. Yeah. So when you are having messages, so the structure like Kafka, this producer record is basically representing that. And here Kafka producer send method will take an object of producer record as an input, which will have two mandatory fields. So one mandatory field will be topic, like which topic we want to publish data, and then another mandatory field will be related to this particular thing, like the value of the message. Like that means like topic and message, and in message also we should have value. The value must be present, right? So these are 4 sample questions that I have shown here, but you can always get more questions from that practice test that I just shown you in the beginning, right? So that is it from my side with regards to the Kafka certification preparation. So hope this webinar was useful to you. So in case you are like preparing for Kafka certification, and then all the best for your exam. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then we can discuss this further, right? So if you have any questions related to the webinar, feel free to stay back and ask questions. If you have any other questions specific to your particular thing, we can discuss offline on maybe LinkedIn, and then we can even have WhatsApp call, no problem. But right now, if you have anything related to certification, I will be more than happy to answer. Thank you so much for your time. I understand it's quite late in India. It's 10:30 p.m. So because I was not sure like how much time it will take, the webinar will take. So that's why I did not define the end time. So I could see like it took around 90 minutes. That means like next time whenever we are planning a webinar related to certification preparation, then we can actually plan like that, like 90 minutes webinar should be good in future. Yeah. So hope this webinar was useful to you. So if you like this webinar, please do send your feedback on maybe LinkedIn. So that will help us in basically doing this webinar more in future. Yeah. So anything you want to share or comment before we close this webinar? I am not looking at the chat. If you have anything, please ask directly, unmute yourself and discuss.
Bhavik, like, do you have like in a Spark, NiFi, and Kafka in one training program or something at your end?
Yeah, so like we can do that. So right now, even I'm building a lot of courses these days, like online courses, and you will basically be soon hearing a lot of things around that. So I'll be sharing those things in the LinkedIn itself. Like that is one thing, and another thing is like in case you are looking for in-person training, then it depends like how many participants are there, and based on that we can organize a batch related to Spark, Kafka, and NiFi.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Bhavik. Thanks for your time.
No problem. We can discuss on LinkedIn further about this. Yeah. So thank you so much for your time. If you have anything, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Thank you, Bhav.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob.
No problem.
Thanks, Bob.